What's up YouTube, Capital G here, checking out some brand new boss monsters that just got revealed in the Duelist Pack 22. If you guys remember, just a few weeks ago, I did cover this booster set and I talked about Bakura's new cards, not just his brand new Dark Necrofear boss monster, but some of his other support. I thought that it was incredibly legitimate and very solid overall. We know the archetypes that are going to be in this set, and if you guys have not guessed by now, this is a full-on villain set. Every archetype in here is played by one of the anime villains. We have evil heroes getting support, which I am just thrilled about, man. I talked about this just last week, how Konami should try to revive evil heroes because there is some potential there, and I thought that, obviously Supreme King Jaden was very cool in Yu-Gi-Oh! GX. We're getting Earthbound Immortals, we're getting Gimmick Puppets, and we are also getting Predaplants in this set. Let's go ahead and start with evil heroes because those were the ones that I was by far the most thrilled about. So we'll start with the new evil hero boss monster. This is Evil Hero Malicious Bane, level 8 Dark Fiend Fusion monster. If you guys don't know, evil heroes are unlike other heroes. They are all Fiend based. They are not warriors like Destiny or Elemental or Mass Heroes or anything like that. This guy has 3,000 attack, 3,000 defense. The materials are one evil hero monster and then one level 5 or higher monster. That's perfectly fine in my opinion because this means that you don't technically have to use two heroes. You can even, obviously there's something like Destiny Hero Malicious that would work, but you can even use something like a Dead Phantasme or a Side-Frame Driver in your hand, just like good competitive cards that people will sometimes use. Now it does say that it must be special summoned by Dark Fusion. Keep in mind that there is another card out there, Dark Calling, that Fusion summons and it counts as being fused by Dark Fusion, so you don't necessarily have to use Dark Fusion. And also, I personally predict that we're going to get another fusion spell in this set and that it will summon the monster as if it was summoned by Dark Fusion. So that's just, I don't know, that's just my kind of hypothesis at this point. Now it says that you can only use the second effect as a hard once per turn. The first effect says cannot be destroyed by battle or card effect. That is excellent. Granted, it's going to be kind of difficult for your opponent to take a 3,000 attack monster down in battle, but it just means that, something like Boros War Dragon can't actually kill it. I love the fact that it can't be destroyed by card effects. That's always going to be pretty useful. Second effect says during your main phase, you can activate this effect. You cannot attack with monsters for the rest of the turn, except hero monsters. So this card can still attack, and, all your other hero monsters can attack. It says destroy as many monsters your opponent controls as possible with less than or equal to this card's attack. And then if you do, this card gains 200 attack for each destroyed. So this card reminds me very much of something like Scarlight Red Dragon Archfiend. Essentially, when you use this effect, you are going to be able to nuke your opponent's board. I like the fact that it doesn't destroy your monsters, and then instead of doing burn damage like Scarlight does, this card just gets progressively stronger. To me, this is an excellent card. And also just keep in mind, if you do summon this with Dark Fusion, it cannot be targeted the turn that it summons. So basically, you could have a card that can't be targeted that turn by your opponent and can't be destroyed by battle or card effects. Like, that's a pretty damn hard monster to kill. I think that this card will be excellent, or it'll be an excellent addition to Evil Heroes. Feels very, very good, very reminiscent of the new Destiny Hero Dominate guy from Dark Neostorm. Let's go ahead and talk about the new Earthbound Immortal card. It's a boss monster as well. This is Earthbound Super Priest. It's a level 8 Dark Fiend monster. I guess almost everything in this set is Fiend based, right? It has 2,900 attack and 2,900 defense. It says the first, second, and third effects are all hard once per turn. So, man, you got a hard once per turn on all of this. First effect is if you control a synchro monster or monsters and have a synchro in your graveyard, you can special summon this card from your hand. So you don't ever have to technically normal summon this card. You can just special summon it if you've got a couple of synchros in the field or on the field, also in the graveyard. Second effect says during your main phase, you can add one Earthbound Immortal monster from your deck or graveyard to your hand. Okay, nice little +1 there. The third effect is actually pretty nuts, but it is super situational, man. I don't know how you're gonna pull this off. It says if an Earthbound Immortal is normal summoned while this card is already in the monster zone, you can make your opponent's life points become 3,000. That is crazy, man. I don't know why that's a hard once per turn effect, honestly, because I mean, Making your opponent's life points become 3,000 twice seems incredibly redundant, but that is a crazy effect because if your opponent is at full life and they're at 8,000, you know, you haven't done any damage to them, being able to do 5,000 damage with a monster effect is like damn near unheard of in Yu-Gi-Oh! The problem is, I mean, seriously, how are you, like, to get this card on field, you're going to need a synchro monster. Like, you're not going to really tribute summon for this card and then tribute summon for Earthbound Immortal. That's like way too many summons, but if you get this card on field, you probably have to have already synchro summoned and have a synchro in the graveyard, and then you still need the normal summon in Earthbound Immortal. Like, I just don't see any feasible way to like make that happen easily. Now, obviously, again, there will be other support cards in this set. We'll have to wait to see what those do. I mean, this is like a nice, you know, thought, but I kind of just feel like Earthbound are beyond saving as an archetype. I didn't feel that way about about Evil Heroes, but I mean, it's a cute card. I don't think that you'll really be able to pull off that third effect consistently, although it looks definitely really nice on paper. We have a new Gimmick Puppet XC monster, and it's an XC rank 4, which is actually really awesome because Gimmick Puppets, before they got the link monster, all they could basically do was kind of go for rank 8s and then kind of like try to rank up into some of their 9s, and that was essentially all they had going for them. This is Gimmick Puppet Gigantes Doll. It's a rank 4 Dark Machine monster, 0 attack and 2,000 defense. It requires 2 level 4 Gimmick Puppet monsters. So if you guys don't know, half the Gimmick Puppets, well, like some of them are level 4 and then some of them are like level 8, and a lot of the level 4s can become level 8. It's very similar to like Galaxy, how the Galaxy archetype is, and you know, before, again, they really didn't have anything to do but to go into 8s, and I like the fact that this is a rank 4. It says that the first and second effects are both hard once per turns. The first effect is actually quite nice in my opinion. It says you can detach 2 materials from this card, then target up to 2 monsters your opponent controls, gain control of them until the end of this turn. Also, for the rest of this turn, you cannot special summon monsters except Gimmick Puppet monsters, and you cannot attack with monsters except XC monsters. Second effect, you contribute this card. That's a cost. All monsters with a level you control become level 8 for the rest of the turn. So essentially, this second effect is supposed to be used after the first effect. Konami is just trying to give you a way of using your opponent's monsters that you just kind of stole from them, because if you can't attack with those monsters and you can't special summon except, you know, Gimmick Puppet monsters for the rest of the turn, it doesn't really make sense for you to take your opponent's monsters and then just kind of like give those monsters back to them and really not have anything to do with them. So essentially, they're kind of making it so you can activate the effect, take their monsters, and then hopefully go into your own rank 8 Gimmick Puppet monster. The one problem that I see with this card is, you know, in Yu-Gi-Oh in 2019, we have Link monsters, we have XC monsters, and if you take those monsters from your opponent, like, you won't be able to essentially do anything with those, because those monsters will not be able to gain a level. I mean, it's fine just getting rid of your opponent's monsters so maybe you can attack them directly, but I honestly wish that this card would have somehow been able to make even Link and XC monsters have levels so that you could still use those monsters for XC summons of a rank 8. Now, you guys might be wondering, Cat, why would you go into this monster instead of just going straight into a rank 8? It's pretty simple. If you take, like, basically you're kind of ending up at the same result, but if you go into this guy first, at least you get rid of 2 of your opponent's monsters, so it does make sense. And again, this is just kind of a nice little stepping stone rather than having Gimmick Puppets only be able to have rank 8 XCs. I kind of like what Konami's doing. They're making Gimmick Puppets a lot less focused, or really not focused. They're a lot less reliant on their rank 8s. Like, you still want to go into the rank 8s for Gimmick Puppets, but now that they have a Link monster, now that they have a rank 4, they have other things that they can actually do, and I just feel like having more options is always good for a deck. Lastly, we have the new Predaplant, and I'm not going to try to pronounce this damn thing's name because I'm just going to butcher it, man. Tripyo Vertum. That's as good as you're going to get from me. Anyways, it's a level 9. It's a dark plant fusion monster as you expected. 3,000 defense, 3,000 attack, and it requires 3 dark monsters on the field. So shout outs to Lair of Darkness and Super Polymerization, which I think Super Polymerization will be nuts with this card. It says that the second and third effects are both hard once per turns. First effect says it gains attack equal to the combined original attack of all monsters on the field with predator counters. So obviously if you're playing this in Predator Plants, you're going to get, you know, basically a nice little stat bonus by having a bunch of predator counters on your opponent's monsters. Second effect is, and this is really good about this card, or really important, it's if this card was fusion summoned and when your opponent would special summon a monster or monsters from the extra deck, you can negate that summon, and if you do destroy that monster. Now the thing is, since it says monster or monsters, this should be able to negate pendulum summons if I'm not mistaken, right? If your opponent tries to special summon like 2 monsters from their extra deck via pendulum summon, as far as I know, you should be able to negate that. I'm loving this effect basically because it's kind of like a solemn warning type deal, but it's you know, only for monsters coming out of the extra deck. But let's be real, so many decks in Yu-Gi-Oh use their extra deck every single turn. That's obviously really strong. Third effect is if your opponent controls a monster with a predator counter, you can special summon this card from your graveyard in defense position. I love that. This card basically not only has built-in negation, it summons itself from the graveyard for basically just kind of doing what Predator Plants already want to do. Predator Plants want to give their opponent a bunch of Predator Plant counters, and this is kind of a way of taking advantage of that. I legitimately do think, I mean, obviously this card is good in Predator Plants, but I think that this card is solid fodder for something like Super Polymerization. If you're playing Super Poly, if you're playing like Lair of Darkness or against like Thunder Dragons and Orcus, why not just be playing this card in your extra deck? Because instead of getting 2 monsters off your opponent's side of the field, if your opponent pops off of like Orcus turn 1 or pops off with Thunder Dragons, there's a legit chance that you can super poly like all their monsters off the board and go straight into this. But whatever you guys think of the Duelist Pack 22, leave it in the comment section below. So far, I have to say I'm liking this set, and you know, I don't really know if I see Earthbound Immortal going anywhere, but Evil Heroes and Predator Plants, like, they could actually give us some good support that could maybe make them like regional top 8 level or something like that. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. As always, subscribe if you have not already, and turn on that notification bell for daily videos.